The Sons of Snow were founded on a cold world whose population had been exceeding the limits of its natural resources. As a result, the population needs to import food regularly, but it will freely give its children and resources to the chapter. The chapter's doctrine is aimed at finding the balance between the beast-like nature that comes naturally to them and the desire for discipline. As a result, the units are trained to keep their cool in the midst of battle, through heavily disciplined training, and through the use of a high number of psychers acting both in support within their ranks, and while not the most powerful, are all trained to slightly affect the minds of the men around them, causing them to keep calm in battle, or making them terrifying to their enemies. They balance the difficulties of keeping disciplined in battle by allowing their rage to somewhat take them over as the enemy begins to waver or start to retreat, turning local retreats into mass routs with the scale of their rage. Their armour is lighter than most, but they all carry a large shield and lighter bolters which allow them to take small arms fire very effectively. Until they get close, they will utilise this tool in shield walls. As well as the lighter pattern bolters, a high proportion of the men carry some form of melee weapon. In order to arm as many as possible with these melee weapons, they use whatever melee weapons they can get their hands on, including power weapons, chain weapons of all shapes and sizes, many of which taken from their defeated enemies. Between the high discipline and formations and the high number of melee weapons, the chapter is very effective against melee infantry. Unusually, the chapter has a guardsman regiment which is attached to it to help and assist them in battle. They are equipped with their standard gear, but this is complemented with a shield and extending spear. The regiment uses their size and relation to the chapter to its advantage in its use of attrition tactics and deep battle operations. The regiment is split into a grinding and mobile section. On the offensive, the grinding section splits up and attacks multiple fronts. When attacking each target, the infantry splits into groups which will advance until it is just within effective range of their enemies. Under the cover of suppressing fire and smoke, they will then entrench and get into cover and take opportunistic shots for several hours. Any important targets that expose themselves to these units will be taken out with light artillery. Several hours later, the units near the enemy will swap out with their fresh comrades and repeat in 4 or 5 watches, keeping constant pressure on the enemy through slowly sapping them of their energy, ammunition and men. Meanwhile, heavier but less accurate artillery occasionally will make short random barrages into enemy positions towards random spots such as sleeping quarters, storerooms, hospitals and command centres, using incendiary rounds, forcing the enemy to live in fear, afraid that during the few times they will get to sleep they will be burned alive, and keeping defenders constantly running around trying to put out fires and save their injured comrades. Meanwhile, the mobile division will attack randomly on the quietest sections of the front lines, but won't risk being destroyed if they take casualties. In this manner, the enemy can't leave any position unguarded, draining it of its reinforcements and the ability to allow their men to rest. When the men at the active points in the line are exhausted, the Sons of Snow will then lead the advance, using their terrifying presence and their ability to rout the defenders, and letting their mobile units through to take positions behind the line. On the defensive, the chapter and guard will entrench themselves and use their formations and number to hold their ground with the chapter being in the thick of the fighting.